My name is Ian Roberts, and I have the honor of serving as the Superintendent of the Moines Public Schools. The Moines Public Schools, of course, is the largest school system in the state of Iowa, but not only is the Moines Public Schools the largest school system, it's the most culturally, linguistically, and economically diverse school system here in the state of Iowa, and one of the most culturally and linguistically diverse school systems in the entire United States. And so having the opportunity to serve as superintendent certainly brings me a tremendous joy. You know, today actually marks 10 months and 15 days since I've been in the role, and so I am approaching the end of my first year, so excited to be here with you today. What kept me on the path to remain both academically and athletically focused makes me think back or harken back to just my upbringing and conversations with my mother. Her preaching and sermonizing the importance of getting a quality education, right? And she would simply remind my brothers and I that it's the one thing that no one can ever take from you. It's a quality education. And so that certainly kept me motivated and kept me in the right track. And as I think about my athletic career, and many would even characterize it as having had some athletic successes, I think it starts with the fact that athletics opened up doors for me that ordinarily I would not have had opened. And so I went to college on a full athletic scholarship. All right, and it's a privilege. I know that I sit in a place of privilege when I've had my collegiate career paid for because of that athletic ability. And so the recognition that both of those pursuits, right, an academic pursuit as well as an athletic pursuit, if you excel, if you become good at those pursuits, then many doors will open up for you. So yeah, I like to think of my presence now in the education space as one that was divinely guided. You know, I had dreams and aspirations of pursuing other fields. At one point, I knew that I wanted to be a hotshot criminal attorney. I even had thoughts about pursuing other career paths, such as maybe politics. But it was during a summer camp in Baltimore City where I worked with juvenile delinquents in a summer camp, and the experiences that I've had with many of those young people, particularly young black boys, inspired me to think about what are those places where I can have a positive impact. And that was probably the starting point to get into the field of public education. Yeah. But what accomplishments do we have since being in this role in my first year? I'm hard pressed to even name any because I think we are a work in progress. But when we've looked back at this year in reflections, you know, in 15 days when every single student would have left for summer and every teacher, and I'm able to sit back and reflect on the year, I want to highlight three very important sort of moves we've made that I would characterize as accomplishments. We're not quite finished, but the first is I have been able to sort of navigate this rich and amazing community of individuals. And so in finding my space and finding my way with the help of so many people, I think we were able to build and strengthen a lot of positive relationships with stakeholders that includes legislators, politicians, members of the faith-based community. Certainly I've been spending and want to continue to spend an inordinate amount of time in black and brown communities so that they understand that Des Moines Public Schools is here to serve their children. The second accomplishment that I want to highlight is the fact that we have been relentlessly focused on quality education, quality instructional practices. And so I shared very early on with every leader in the district that my expectation is for our school principals to spend no less than 70% of their time on what we call the instructional core, right? I remind them often, and they don't need reminding, but I think it's my role to share with them that we are an education institution. We are here because every single parent who sends their child and children to knock on our doors expect that they will leave this place with a world-class education. And so principals have demonstrated to me that they're more than capable of doing that. And I would say that 100% of our principals right now, while this was not the reality in my first 90 days, but 100% of our school leaders are committed to instructional leadership, where they are focused on what teachers are teaching, what students are learning, and to make sure that we have a robust curriculum implementation about solid curriculum. And the third accomplishment that I really want to highlight is I have been preaching and talking about and sermonizing the importance for every teacher and every school leader to become culturally responsive. Because while 76% of our student population here, of 31,000 students, are eligible to receive free and reduced meals, so they are below the poverty line. Close to 70% of our students are black and brown students, are non-white. But only 14% of our teaching population share the same cultural and racial identity as our students. And so what that means for us is every single person must be intentional about understanding and valuing the culture and lived experiences of every student who knock on our doors. And what I've seen and observed thus far is, in addition to us talking about what that means, we have invested money and resources in a curriculum that will inspire and encourage teachers and leaders to make sure that we are valuing the culture of students. We're teaching them in a manner that is not only focused on grade level instruction, but we're teaching them in a manner that allows the instruction to be engaging, to be meaningful for them based on their cultural experiences. And so those are 3 accomplishments this year that only bodes well for what is to come in the next several years. There are times that I want to actually buy the t-shirt and wear it around so people can understand how important Juneteenth is, right? I know the history book tells us that many people, even those who do not share my cultural and racial identity, they have an understanding that Juneteenth was about the abolition of slavery, the legal ending of slavery, freedom for black men and women. And the reason I started my answer to what does Juneteenth mean to me by sharing this idea of buying the t-shirt and wearing it is, I still believe that we are existing in systems and institutions that are still intended to oppress and suppress black men and women. We are not yet ready as a society to truly grant and allow black men and women to have that freedom. And so for me, Juneteenth is a constant reminder that while I sit in a place of privilege, and many would even say that I have a freedom of expression and movement because of my own qualifications, there's so many young people who are still not free. There's so many adults who are still not free, because freedom comes from a place of not just getting rid of the physical bondage and the physical chains, but the mental freedom. And one way for us to ensure that our young people are truly experiencing what it means to be free is to provide them with that one thing that we talked about earlier, no one can ever take away, and that's a quality education. When they become immensely qualified, no one can oppress them. No one continue to suppress them or put those chains of bondage, right, politically, economically, or socially in them. And so to me, Juneteenth is a constant reminder about what so many of our ancestors have endured, the sacrifices that they have made. And so it reminds me that I need to make prudent decisions every single day, because if I do not, there is always a slight chance or possibility of going back to a place where my freedom as I know it can be compromised. So Juneteenth 2024, Saturday, June 15th, Neighbors Day. Here's what I want to share with individuals. As the superintendent who leads the state of Iowa's largest school system, as the first Black superintendent to lead this school district that has been in place for 116 years, now more than ever, we have to embrace the privilege around the freedoms that we have. But what we cannot take for granted is there are still systems and structures and institutions that are intended to keep us in bondage. And so coming out to celebrate Juneteenth is so much more than just acknowledging a single day. It's about elevating our culture. It's about finding opportunities to create spaces where we can inspire each other. And given the role in which I'm serving and the position in which I sit, I want to commit to be a part of the celebrations on that day. But more than just celebrations, I want to be a part of the movement, because we have to continue to make sure that we are elevating not just the social experiences, but the academic and intellectual experiences of our young people, because it's not until they are truly free that we are guaranteed that our freedom will be in perpetuity. But if we do not come out on days like June 15, 2024, to show and model for young people what it means to be a community of Black men and women who are gathered together to continue to inspire each other and celebrate each other, then we stand the risk of going back into a place that is not healthy for us. So we have to come out and celebrate on June 15th. Juneteenth means so much more than just the recognition of the abolition of slavery. It means that we have to think about our freedom for the next 100 years.